Hi, we're back for another video. Last video, we went over implementing secure socket layer VPNs using the ASA device manager. For this video, thank you if you watched that one. For this video, we'll be configuring, verifying, and troubleshooting port security. We're going to go over a few things. We're just going to be configuring static and dynamic port security, configuring additional port security configuration settings, and also configuring error-disable recovery as well. It's going to be a straight shooter, more of a video as far as mostly typing for configurations and settings with explanations as to what I'm doing and why. But this would be one of the more straightforward videos, similar to when we did the GRE tunnel. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, what we're going to do is configuring some static and dynamic port security. And what port security is, it's a technology that allows us to block unknown devices from being connected to a specified switch port. So we're just going to configure the static and dynamic port security specific on the port that's connected to our Edge 1 router, which is the core one, right? So first, I got to determine the MAC address for the Edge 1 router. So I'm just going to ask, hey, can you show me the MAC address? And then it'll show if I could, did I spell it? Yeah, I was a little worried about my spell there. So then the MAC address that corresponds to the fast Ethernet for the interface, right? It'll allow us to move on to our next step, which will be enabling the port security on the fast Ethernet interface. I configure this MAC address as a secure address on this interface. So let's get into the terminal, right? And then let's start typing away. Get into our switch port. Oh, that's wrong. Perfect. Okay. Go. We're going to leave out of here. I'm going to leave out of the configuration as well. There it is. We're good. We are good there. So now we're just going to verify the port security configuration for the interface. All right, so the port security is enabled and one MAC address has been configured. So I'm going to do another command to see that address that has been configured. Yep. All right, so we see that the type, right, is secure configured. That means it's a statistically configured secure MAC address. So now that we're able to move on to our next task, which is configuring the dynamic port security, right? So we're going to configure the fast Internet 101 interface on this switch that we're on to function with the dynamic port security. And I'm actually going to remove the statically, not statistically, the statically configured MAC address on this router as well that's connected to Edge 1. So let's get into back into the terminal. All right, so now all statically assigned secure MAC addresses have been removed and dynamic port security has been enabled automatically. So now I'm going to verify the port security configuration of the interface for fast Ethernet 101. Let me type here. All right, so if we notice, right, the last source address for the VLAN, right, uh, for the virtual local area network, that field now contains the MAC address for edge one because it has been dynamically learned. We're going to issue another command to see details about the address that has been dynamically learned. So it's going to look like this here. Okay, doesn't really show much. Show me more here. All right, so but we can see that the type column now contains secure dynamic, indicating a dynamically learned secure MAC address. You see that right here. All right, but nonetheless, we can move on to our next exercise, which is going to be configuring additional port security configuration settings, right? So I'm going to configure port security on core 2, right, to block unknown MAC addresses from connecting to a specific switch port. In this example that we're going to do is there's a Cisco IP phone connected to fast Ethernet 1012 interface on this switch. We're going to do that here. So first, I'm going to, for my first task, I'm going to have additional port security configuration settings. So I'm going to configure the switch to reuse this connection. It's going to include additional parameters, including maximum number of MAC addresses, sticky MAC addresses, and configuring violation modes. So let's actually get into the terminal so we can begin. All right, perfect. So I'm going to describe a bit of the effect of the commands I just placed here. So the MAC address sticky command, it indicates that the switch will automatically learn that the MAC address of the first device that's connected to this interface, and it will keep it or let it stick, quote unquote, in memory, even if the device is removed, right? So, and also for the port security maximum, number one, it indicates that only one MAC address may be learned, and the second MAC address that connects will not be learned, nor will it stick. The port security violation set down, it defines what will happen if port security is violated. In this case, the port will shut down, of course, being in a lab environment. Now, for just port security itself, this command just enables port security on the port. In other words, it enables all of the above configurations to take place. Now, I'm going to confirm now the status of the interface with the port security enabled that I'll need to show the commands which are accessed from privilege executive mode, so to speak. So some are available in user executive mode as well, but I'm going to use a few commands to view the current port security status of the fast Ethernet for 1012. I'm going to do this here. Okay. All right, so the port status of secure up, right? It indicates that the port security is enabled and is functioning correctly, right? And if we observe the remaining configuration indicators and compare with the commands that we've entered before, we should take a look at we have more time, we'll take a look at it. But next, now we're going to change the allowed MAC address for the fast Ethernet for 1012 so that it's not the same as the device currently connected to this interface. But before I do this, I have to clear the sticky MAC address. So I'm going to enter in a few things. I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to shut down the fast Ethernet interface. I'm going to remove the sticky MAC address, the switch learner. Then I'm going to configure a new like fictitious MAC address that you'll see with a bunch of zeros and a one, and then I'll enable the interface. So let me get the typing. And here's the fictitious I was mentioning before. Okay, good. All right, perfect. So now after a minute or so, as we can see, the syslog messages similar, right, to a few things here. They appear here, and it will take a little while. The phone needs to boot up once power is granted to it. It may take us several minutes. But I also want to note that especially the two syslogs for should be two here, which should indicate a port security violation for P secure violation and reveal that the interface has been placed in the error disabled state, or in essence, it has been shut down. Now, when the port is enabled again, power is granted to the IP telephone, and it begins to boot up the process again. The first few log messages, it's going to refer to the switch providing power to the IP phone, Internet Protocol phone. And then also that the violation does take several minutes, as it is now, to appear as indicated by the above syslog times. So whenever you see a syslog message indicating that the interface, at least in this case, Fast Ethernet 1012 has changed state to down, we actually need to take a look at the output of the show port security command that I previously used. So let's take a look. Okay. All right, so now I see the form of port status, right? This is secure and shut down. So I'll also notice that the interface status is that when I use the show interface fast Ethernet 1012 command, I'm going to notice that there's an error or a disabled state, right? So it's actually, let's see, yeah, I'll use this. There we go. So the interface, unfortunately, has been disabled due to the violation action I configured onto the interface. But typically, what we would do, or what I would do, is further examine other types of violation actions that would be available using Cisco's like context-sensitive help on the command line. Usually, if you hit in a question mark, it'll provide that for you. But nonetheless, that allows us to move on to our next exercise, which is configuring the error disable recovery. So when a port security violation occurs that results in the port shutting down, that port goes into an error disabled state. In order to recover from such a situation, I have to go back into the switch, shut down the interface and bring it back up. Now, to avoid a procedure like this, it's possible to configure the port so that the error disable state is not permanent. So the interface can automatically be brought back up after a specified amount of time. So I'm just going to configure this, the error disable recovery. And let's see, let's start with core 2 here. We're going to examine the current disable recovery configuration. Let's see. There it is. Okay. So show us what's going on. There it is. Okay. All right, so there's a pretty much a list of reasons why for why an interface may enter a disabled state. So the reason that's important to me right now is the psecure violation, which is the port security violation, right? An automatic recovery from such a violation is currently disabled. So if we notice that there should be a timer here that shows me. There it is. So the timer that shows me right for 300 seconds. So if error disabled recovery were activated, recovery of interfaces would also occur every 300 seconds or every 5 minutes, so to speak. So right now I'm going to enable error disabled recovery for port security violations, and then I'm going to allow for recovery after a timeout of about 30 seconds. So let me get back inside the terminal. And then let's see. Recovery to come back up and help me out. Okay. Then good work. Let me get out of here. Okay, perfect. So now I need to verify this configuration by reviewing the error disable recovery configuration again. So let me do this here. Take a look. And of course, still disabled. Right. But I also want to know, note rather, that the psecure violation or disabled reason is now enabled, right? And that the current state of the interface is shown in a table that includes the time left before recovery, right? And should show that there it is. And so now in a moment, while it continues to load, the messages are going to indicate that the interface has come up and the IP telephone is receiving power. Usually soon after, the violation would occur again, and the port is going to enter the error disabled state. So I may see a series of messages similar to what I saw before, as far as like psecure violation or attempting to recover from the violation, power granted, and things of that nature, right? But nonetheless, that has brought us to the end of this video where we configured, verified, and troubleshooted a bit of some port security. We configured static and dynamic port security, configured additional port security configuration, and we also configured some error disable recovery as well. This was definitely a fun thing to do. And the next video, we're going to be doing something even more fun, scanning and remediating vulnerabilities with OpenVAS. So I hope to see you there. Stay curious, stay secure.